Heyo everybody, welcome back to Zekism. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. Let's be honest, it's a big movie year 2026, and two of the biggest movies that are scheduled to release this year are Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3. They're both scheduled to release on the same day, December the 18th, and I think those of us who've sort of been watching and waiting for one to blink realise that they both can't release on the same day. Surely they're not going to cannibalize each other, which they automatically will. Let's be honest, the audiences they're both seeking are probably the same audiences. It's very rare you see two massive movies released on the same day that are seeking the same audience. Like one will blink, and the question is, who will blink first? I think the assumption was that Dune Part 3 will move at some point, but I think, well, for reasons that there seems to be a lack of leadership maybe at Warner Brothers. I think we can all read the press and sort of work out as to why that might be. But also, Warner Brothers rather cleverly have locked in IMAX screens for quite a long time during the period of December 18th to I think after Christmas. In which case, the biggest selling period of market share that they would have for IMAX screens, which are very financially lucrative and obviously provide a bump up in the ticket sales, that goes to June. So round one goes to Dune Part 3. And we go to Forbes now with the article, as Avengers Doomsday may blink in the Dune Part 3 release date chicken. It seems unfathomable that Disney may be thinking about moving the release date of Avengers Doomsday, should I say. But Paul Tassi, who I have a spotty history with in terms of reliability, but he is mouthpiecing essentially John Campea, who I do think has a number of reliable sources, just from previous experience of watching his content. We love combining movie names ever since Barbie and Oppenheimer created Oppenharby, which isn't the right name. Sharing the same release weekend this year, we have Dunesday with Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3. Both enormous blockbusters releasing on the same day, December the 18th, 2026. This was always a bit head-scratching, as there is a reason that two enormous movies do not usually butt heads, but with rare Barbenheimer, yes, I know there really was exceptions. See, he's just deliberately antagonistic. That sounds a bit bitchy, but you know what I mean. An Avengers movie is doing this especially seemed wild. There is a new report out from John Campea, who I do recommend, by the way. He's very entertaining, and like I said, has had a few sources that have been quite reliable over the years. So I do, as much as you take every scooper with a pinch of salt, and so you should. He does seem to have a track record of, he knows some people that are in the know. And he says, after some speculation from other outlets, he spoke with a source in exhibitor relations that says there are discussions about Avengers Doomsday being the one to blink. This feels like he knows some people in the cinema chains, so AMC potentially in America, and they've had discussions with Disney, not happy about that IMAX window being locked in with Dune. And therefore, potentially, there is talks of, well, it's not financially lucrative for us to maintain the release date as is. Maybe let's move. And that's sort of what he goes on to say. Moving off that date to 1 week earlier on December the 11th. I would even move it earlier than that. Why don't you have most of December? 1 week does nothing for you, because that's 1 week of IMAX screens. Is that really the most you Disney would be expecting to house? Anyway. One factor here, outside of just two big movies may cannibalize each other, is that Dune Part 3 has a ton of IMAX screens locked up for distribution that Doomsday cannot get on that release date. Moving up would allow Doomsday to get at least one weekend of a bunch of IMAXs before Dune takes them over, which may tip the scales into making this happen. Doomsday swerving in this game of release date chicken. And then you got some. Would Avengers Doomsday have won the weekend if they shared it? Probably. Here are the domestic opening weekend totals for all Avengers movies plus two Dune movies. And I don't think these are particularly relevant because half of these Avengers films were released, nearly a decade ago, if that. More so than that. Also, that it's not really comparable to compare them with Dune, because Dune was a franchise, I guess, that didn't really have many legs before Denis Villeneuve remade them in the early 2020s, and that was during pandemic era, to be fair. So it's not really relevant or prevalent to mention those, but whatever. If you're about to say, well, the post-Endgame era has not been great and there's Marvel fatigue, let me show you the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer that is the first trailer to break 1 billion views on YouTube. Avengers Doomsday isn't quite comparable, as it opened with those short little teaser trailer. So yeah, they haven't released a full trailer yet for Doomsday, but I expect post Brand New Day for that to happen. Speaking of Brand New Day, that trailer did phenomenally well. Like, phenomenally well compared with... So people are starved, I think, for superhero entertainment. I don't think the superhero bubble has burst just yet. I've been saying this for quite a while. I think it is a quality thing and an audience trust issue. I think Marvel has tried to win that trust back over the last few years. Well, certainly over the last 12 to 18 months. With mixed success, but I think most people are quite interested to see what they're going to do with Avengers Doomsday, regardless of the circumstance or the skepticism involved in bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and whoever else. So, it's more than likely that Avengers Doomsday would have won anyway, as he goes on to say. But with both an unneeded dip shed with a blockbuster and a lack of IMAX screens that they can get if they just shift 1 week, Dune isn't going to move after getting those IMAX screens. That's true. That's probably quite true. Potentially opening them up for Doomsday. Whoever secured that deal deserves a raise. Yeah, that's probably true. Again, none of this is official, but we have at least one report from John Campion that it may happen. We are still 9 months away after all, and almost everything about it makes sense. Given the situation at hand, I don't think this is Doomsday being scared of Dune. Again, they'd win the weekend, but the IMAX factor may be decisive. Now, yeah, and that's the end of the article. Now, let's talk more about the issue at hand. Disney loves money. They just do. They love their money. And the fact that IMAX is locked down for the Christmas period is a big deciding factor, I think, in that. Like I said, they've got a 2-week window over the festive period, and I'm not sure if this is just exclusive to America. It probably might be, but I think, being American companies, they do take that into consideration. If box office reports always domestic first, and then international sort of very, very secondary, because there's so many smaller markets that make up that cap of international box office, and anything bar China really does look small fry in comparison to American box office reporting figures. That said, I think it is interesting that, well, one, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It is interesting that Forbes have actually released an article skating off the back of a YouTuber for their information, as in terms of a scoop. I think that's really humorous, especially because Forbes are the outlet in the know with the movie studios. So there might be some shenanigans at play here from the studios, but this feels purely like we need to get some Doomsday content online. Oh, this YouTuber's talking about it, let's report on it. I could be totally wrong on that, but that's what it feels like. The other thing to, again, a little bit bitchy. Hi Paul, if you're listening. Big fan. The other thing to talk about is the whole Avengers Doomsday of it all. Disney really needs Avengers Doomsday to be a success. For more than one reason, but ultimately because the franchise... I say franchise, I hate using that word, but the Marvel in general, the perception, or certainly the vocal perception online, if you look at Twitter, is that Marvel is dead, it's rubbish, it's very sort of, agenda driven, blah, 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 it's lost its way, everyone should be fired, no one should watch superhero films anymore, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, whatever. That's been the narrative over the last few years, and to some extent they've deserved that narrative because the quality has not been totally there. Their focus has definitely not been there, and their storytelling abilities has been, spotty at best. That said, I don't think it's as, I'm certainly, well, full disclosure, as you probably know if you've seen this channel, I'm a Marvel shill. I do enjoy the MCU for the most part of most stuff they release, and this is the world I want to inhabit. And the characters I want to inhabit. That said, I am objective, or I try to be at least. I can tell a bad movie from a good one. And Marvel has had too many track records of making not so great creative decisions over the last few years, especially phases 4 and 5. I think phases 6, I don't know many it's in its infancy for a start, but I don't think they've made too many creative blunders over the last 12 months. I can think of Ironheart and I can think of Brave New World. Other than that, I'm not sure. I mean, Wonder Man was even good. So they might be course correcting at the right time, and this may lead into quite a good year for them. If you think Wonder Man started off the year, we've now got Daredevil Born Again Season 2, which, full disclosure, I like Born Again. You then lead into Spider-Man Brand New Day, and if, like we hope, it actually links together with the series of Daredevil, oh my god, I'm going to be very, very happy. Very, very, very happy. You then have Vision Quest, which I hear good things about, but haven't seen one thing yet. I hear who's potentially going to be in it, or what the story is potentially going to be, which is interesting. I can't say I'm super excited, but say that's good. And then you lead into Doomsday. That's a good year. That's a good calendar year for Marvel to look at and point at and go, do you know what? We're I don't want to say firing all cylinders, but the quality is back. And this leads into the game of chicken that they're currently playing with Dune Part 3. We've spoken about Warner Brothers and the leadership issues they've got there in terms of being bought, potentially not being bought in the next few weeks and months. Whether that happens or not, and who ends up owning Warner Brothers, is for the birds. For now, the issue is this release date being the key, and currently they hold all the cards. I think Disney are currently banking, if they haven't made a decision yet, on the Warner Brothers issue or Dune, the makers of Dune, being scared of the box office hit they'll take at opening the same day as Doomsday. Same reason, Disney are doing the same thing. And if they relinquish those IMAX screens because they move the date, in which case Avengers Doomsday moves into that period. However, the marketing has started with Avengers Doomsday, so they are starting to get the ball rolling a little bit more on the whole Avengers Doomsday of it all. We've seen shots of Doctor Doom coming out. I know they're going to be preparing post-credit scenes for the Spider-Man film, no doubt. I would imagine there'll be post-credit scenes for maybe potentially Vision Quest because of where that story might end up in relation to Doomsday. I don't know. That's speculation as well. And we'll just check in with our Avengers Doomsday clock. Yeah, we're about 8 months, 16, 15 days away. And so many hours and minutes and seconds. I do love that clock. I think it makes... Well, here's the thing. Here's what Disney could do. I know how they'll word it, which is, we're moving for the fans. We're moving it up because we're giving you more for your bang for your buck. Obviously, it's a financially motivated decision. But the fact that IMAX screens are locked up gives them a potential out here. And that they could move it and say, look, we're moving, the clock's glitched and now we're moving it up, sort of thing. Whether they do that or not is, I don't know. I think there's more likely they do move than not. And that's just from... Well, Disney's one to absolutely flex their muscles where they can, but I don't know how much muscles they've got to flex at the moment. Marvel isn't what it was when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out. They're not the biggest show in town anymore. Certainly, perception-wise, from if you read corners of the internet, which I don't advise, but if you do, you would think Marvel is being burnt to the ground and all this other stuff. It's not necessarily the case. But I do think perception is everything, and cinema chains want money. Dune has proven to be a box office hit over the last few years, which has surprised me because it seemed on the face of it a very niche sci-fi, but it has reached an audience, and that audience is the audience they're going for Doomsday. So go figure, maybe Disney might blink in relation to becoming the bigger person in the room, or however they'll word it. I'm sure they will. But that's what I think. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Avengers Doomsday or Dune Part 3? Which one blinks first? Let me know what you think. Please leave a like, subscribe on the channel, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.